And this I could, the difference it has created is so obvious and so strong that one simply cannot ignore it. I was comparing, in some ways, the poorest Muslim, the most backward Muslim society with the most advanced Western society, and I try to demonstrate that things which were not told to them by religion, they did not learn by themselves. And if you compare the poor societies of one religion with the poor societies of Islam in other places, then you find the great difference. Here at least the society appears much cleaner than the Muslims in the backward countries, because as I have said, hygienically they have adopted this way of life which appears to be very clean. But they don't have the concept of paki and napaki. This I leave out for a while because it will lead me to another discussion. That also, based on religious morality, paki and napaki. And Islam teaches you a lot of values from that angle too, which no civilization could conceive, because it is purely a religious angle. For instance, when I once visited India in 1964, I think, yes, and I took a tanga in the morning at the prayer time. The tanga driver was not a Muslim, and he was never told to wash himself in the morning. First thing he gets up, and he should clean his mouth 5 times a day with kuli and rinse his mouth and so on, or use miswak and things. And because he was poor, he could not afford to have a toothpaste and a clean habit of using toothpaste and brush, etc. So his breath was far more stinking than the breath of the horse he was driving. It was impossible for me to sit facing him, So all the time I had to face the other way, hoping for the fresh breath of air, to take away the sting. And I knew then that a Muslim tanga driver, however poor he may be, if he was praying 5 times a day, whatever his state of affairs, he would be found in, almost in rags, but his breath would not be that ugly or that bad. Because this is a religious morality which has been given to us by religion. So now if you start working backwards, right from the Western civilization too, you will find that their civil habits, their courtesy is directly rooted into Christian teaching. There is absolutely no doubt about it. The people who lived in Europe prior to Christianity, their moral code and their habits and the way of life was so totally different that if Christianity had not played her part in modeling them, in shaping their character, in cultivating concept of morality into them, it would not have been possible to create the Western civilization with stresses on courtesy and kindness and everything. So all that is good in this civilization, they owe from Christianity. All that is bad in this civilization, they owe to their own way of thinking, So how can one say that anyone, Tom, Dick and Harry, can create morality for himself or for his people, and it is something to be built like that? It is wrong. I mean, it has in no relationship to realities of life, and too simple a statement to be accepted as such. And even if you do ultimately succeed in making a perfect code of morality artificially by your own, first of all, it is not possible because the questioner already admits that he is under the influence of the background teaching he received in the childhood, and all the time he will be thinking of something new. There will be some religious teaching in the background of his mind telling him, yes, this is the right way and that is the right way. So he can't say that it is a totally independent effort. He will be always working under the moral influence of some religion. but let us forget it. Suppose somebody has never heard of any religious teaching and is so gifted by nature, because they don't believe in God, let's say nature, that he conceives of a perfect code of morality. How is he going to implement it? Just tell me how. The governments cannot enforce morality through coercion. Laws can be forced to a measure, but morality goes much deeper. It works when you are alone by yourself. Otherwise you are not a moral animal, you are an animal working under compulsions. So morality has a quality of independence about it which does not need to be enforced. Whenever it is enforced, it is not called morality at all. So how is he going to implement that morality? The fact is that morality is related to a background consciousness of accountability. It gets rooted with the help of that consciousness of accountability. If you are accountable to some being after your death, then there is an inner compulsion in you which is nothing to do with outer coercion of states. And that helps give permanence to the concept of morality. Without that, it will break down very soon. Even if you teach such people that you should be moral and this and that, it will totally break down and crumble into pieces because there is no inner coercion without the concept of God. So you can't live without him. If you do, you can choose a way of life, but then don't try to gain the values which can only be gained through the help of religion and with the concept of God, not otherwise. Yes, any other question, please? Bashir Yasser, yes, I understand. One of your legs is hurting again, huh? Because he is changing postures. Whenever now instead of raising his hand for a question, he starts moving restlessly, to draw my attention. Yes, please. Yes. Wa assalamu alaikum.
Would Hazur most kindly advise us the difference between bid'ah, innovation in religion, and ittihad, interpretation of Islamic law? Secondly, explain the difference between mujtahid, religious director, and mujaddid, renewer or revivalist.
Now please, let's start with the first question. What is it that you find confusing in the two? I mean, they have no relationship at all. Innovation and ijtihad, they don't belong to the same category, same field. So what is it that you find confusing and which you want to be explained? I can't follow your question. Can't really comprehend what you want to know.
And ijtihad, these are the things later.
What do you understand by the word bid'ah, please?
Bid'ah, there are so many things like bid'ah. For example, taweez.
Yes.
That's a bid'ah.
Yes.
Or go to the graves and pray there, or put some sheets on the graves and all this, and ask something from the dead bodies.
Yes.
And like rosemary leaves.
Now, why do they do it? Why these people do it?
Some of the scholars, they think they introduce them, might have introduced them with good faith, but ultimately the practice is...
No, what is their explanation for this? Do they find it based on the teaching of the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet, or do they claim that it is something new which we have invented?
I think this is a later thing, which they invited, but...
So what is ijtihad?
Ijtihad is interpretation of Islamic law. They get something from...
So you already have made the difference. What are you asking then? You know the answer of your question yourself. You have made it very clear to me.